While not used in as many wars as the Colt M1911, the Browning High Power is still regarded as the finest example of a pistol ever manufactured. After 82 years of continuous production, FN Herstal announced that the production of the High Power would end, and it was discontinued in early 2018 by Browning Arms. From 2019 to 2022, and with new Belgian high powers no longer being built, new clones were designed by various firearm companies to fill the void, including Gerson, TSAS, and Springfield Armory Incorporated. These new high-power clones began competing with each other by offering new finishes, enhanced sights, redesigned hammers, beveled magazine wells, improved triggers, and increased magazine capacity. Not being complacent in the firearms world, and realizing just how popular the high power is, in 2022, FN announced that they would resume production of the Browning High Power. The 2022 FN High Power incorporates a number of entirely new features, such as the fully ambidextrous slide lock, simplified takedown method, enlarged ejection port, reversible magazine release, wider slide serrations, different colored finish offerings, and a 17-round magazine. The original Browning High Power, however, is regarded as, and if you are wanting a Browning High Power, what most want to own, regardless of the improvements made with the new or clone versions. Like a new version of the Colt Single Action Army, and while many improvements have been made to it, and many reproductions exist, an original Colt 1873 Single Action Army remains the most desirable to have and hold. And if you want to know about an original Browning High Power, stay tuned, because I am going to tell you all about one. The Browning High Power has a fascinating history, but that can be found with a bit of research, and I will only offer this brief tidbit. The Browning High Power was John Moses Browning's last firearm design. He had sold his rights to the 1911 to Colt and was working on his next project. He died of heart failure on November 26, 1926. While working at the bench on a new pistol, the GP35, or as we have come to know it, the Browning High Power. The design was eventually completed in 1935 by Belgian designer Douadnay Sauvé. The design of the High Power, while based around the 1911, was an entirely new design with new features, some of which were incorporated by Douadnay Sauvé after the death of John Browning. So let's look at those. Overall, the Browning High Power is a semi-automatic pistol. It is single action with a locked breech recoil system, and which incorporates a 13-round magazine, a curved rear grip strap, and barrel bushing that is integral to the slide assembly. Construction is blued steel, top and bottom, and the 1 pound 13.3 ounces of weight without magazine attest to that. The entire pistol is highly polished as compared to what we see today, with matte finishes being on even more expensive firearms. The one thing to be noticed is that the recoil spring and guide rod are encapsulated within the slide. No little tip of the guide rod can be seen from the front. The muzzle end, very Punisher-like in appearance, is round at the top and flat on the sides, at least until the slide meets the end of the frame, at which point the slide flares out to meet the width of the frame and slightly beyond it. Atop the slide at the front end is a very small protrusion that is called the front sight, and I do mean a very small protrusion, somewhat reminiscent of the front sight found on an original M1911. Funny how design from one pistol can carry over to another, which is not surprising since John Browning designed both pistols. The side flats carry the markings of the manufacturer on the left side, while acknowledging the Browning patent. The right side of the slide only contains the serial number. A series of very fine serrations are found on both sides at the rear of the slide, but not before the right side is interrupted by a lowered ejection port, and just to the rear of that, an external extractor that grabs the case of a cartridge, expended or not, to position it, or them, from the internal ejector to cast them away from the pistol like swatting a fly from the face. The top of the slide is as smooth as a baby's bottom and incorporates no means of cutting glare, much like that of a bald head on a sunny day. The rear sight is no joy either, barely a dimple on the top of the slide. The non-adjustable rear sight only provides a wee bit of a notch in which to view the front sight. The Browning High Power was not intended for target shooting. This was a combat firearm intended to do what it does best, put down the enemy. It might be interesting to know that during World War II, Belgium was occupied by Nazi Germany, and the FN factory was used by the Wehrmacht to build the pistols for their military. Browning High Power was truly a weapon of war. In German service, it was used mainly by the Waffen-SS and the Fallschirmjäger personnel. Fortunately, it was also used by Allied forces. Could not let those pesky Germans have all the fun, now could we? Getting back on track, the hammer on this model is a royal affair that has barely enough surface and texture to get a thumb on it for cocking and decocking. The Browning High Power, being a single-action only pistol, can be carried in one of four ways. Condition 1, cocked and locked. Condition 2, hammer down on a loaded chamber. Condition 3, hammer down on an empty chamber. Or Condition 4, hammer resting on the safety stop with a cartridge chambered. Rarely were these carried in Condition 1. Unless the slide was drawn to the rear, cocking is usually a two-handed affair. Hold the pistol in the support hand and cock the hammer with the right hand. Resting the hammer on the safety stop made it easier to grasp the hammer with the thumb to cock. Being a single-action pistol with no easy means of decocking the pistol had to be manually decocked, as would be done with the 1911 pistol. Slow, easy, and all fingers and thumbs working in unison with each other. I'll talk more about operating the pistol later. There is somewhat of a ledge under which the hand can rest up against for a high hold on the pistol. Falling very short of a modern-day beaver tail, the operator may experience hammer pinch should the fleshy part of the hand get too high up on the grip. I am one of those. Not only with the Browning High Power, but also with the 1911 and 1911A1, which is why during the range session you will see a glove shooting hand holding this pistol. There were two versions of the high power. One had a spur-type hammer, and this was usually the pinch wrench. The second version, like this one, a military model, has a smaller, rounded burr hammer, more like that of the Colt Commander compact version of the 1911. Even still, I am prone to hammer bite regardless of the hammer type. The grip contour is very nice and settles right in the palm of my hand. I am not going to use the old fits like a glove saying, as my hand folds around to grip very nicely, and not vice versa. No texturing is available on the rear and front straps. That leaves only very finely checkered grip panels to hold on to. Grip panels are nicely rounded from checkering to smooth. They feel extremely at home in the hand. While gripping the high power, and if you ride the frame-mounted thumb safety of a 1911, you will find that you cannot do that, as there is very little safety lever to ride on, let alone engage. This is another one of those thumb safety levers that you will be able to easily actuate, at least from fire to the safe position, without support hand assistance. When moving from safe to fire, however, it takes little effort to feel it stick into place. That will take the support hand to do so. Just above the thumb, when holding the pistol in the right hand, is the slide release lever. I find that while it can be pressed to release the slide with the right hand, it is much easier to use the support hand to do so. More so, that it keeps the support hand in constant contact with the pistol while chambering a fresh round and then positioning it for supporting the firearm. Besides, the support hand can get a better purchase on the slide release lever than can the shooting hand thumb. Just below the thumb, when gripping the firearm, lies the magazine catch and release button. While it can be actuated with the thumb of the shooting hand, I found it easier to use the thumb of my support hand to press the plunger. Why? Because the magazine just does not fly out of the magazine well. It has to be stripped, and the support hand is in a good position to do so. Operating the Browning high power is like driving a vehicle with a manual shift. Give the left side something to do, instead of just being lulled into numbness while the vehicle shifts gears. The high power gives meaning to support hand. Somewhere around the middle of the trigger finger, when inserted into the round and smooth trigger guard, there is a trigger. Fancy that. The trigger is a nicely curved and smooth device that after 2 pounds 13.3 ounces of pull, with a 5-pull average, releases the hammer. Trigger take-up is very short, until the proverbial wall is felt, and the break is crisp, with no over-travel. Feels like a classic 1911 trigger in its operation, but there is a caveat. With the magazine removed, it will not function. This could be considered as a safety measure, I suppose. One could carry the high power in condition 1, but with the magazine removed, even with a live cartridge chambered. If you need to shoot, simply slap a fully loaded magazine in it, drop the safety lever, and fire away. Before I slip away into the range segment, the high power, like many other Browning designs, operates on a short recoil principle, where the barrel and slide initially recoil together until the barrel is unlocked from the slide by a cam arrangement. Unlike Browning's earlier Colt M1911 pistol, the barrel is not moved vertically by a toggling link, but instead by a hardened bar, which crosses the frame under the barrel and contacts a slot under the chamber at the rearmost part of the barrel. The barrel and slide recoil together for a short distance, but as the slot engages the bar, the chamber and the rear of the barrel are drawn downward and then stopped. The downward movement of the barrel disengages it from the slide, which continues to the rear, extracting the spent case from the chamber and ejecting it, while also cocking the hammer. After the slide reaches the limit of its travel, the recoil spring brings it forward again, stripping a new round from the magazine and pushing it into the chamber. This also pushes the chamber and barrel forward. Cam slot and bar move the chamber upward, and the locking lugs on the barrel re-engage those in the slide. Pretty ingenious if you ask me, but then again, who was the designer? It would be nice to take a look at the internals, but I'm going to hold off on that until we get to the maintenance segment, right after the range segment. Okay, let's pop out of here and into the range, where we can see the Browning High Power doing what it does best, putting little holes in big targets. This is the first time, for me, shooting this particular Browning High Power. Having shot one in the past, and experiencing hammer bite when the pistol cycled, I am wearing a shooting glove today. What a wussy, right?
You're a wuss. Yeah, whatever, shut up.
No plus P ammunition will be fired. Just plain Jane Remington 9mm Luger 124 grain FMJ. I don't expect anything magical to happen, given the relatively poor sighting system of the Browning High Power, coupled with my aging eyes, but maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe, just maybe, I'll be effective with the Browning High Power. Well, let's get to the shooting part and see how we work together. If a pistol's maintenance is well documented, like that of a 1911 or Glock, I have foregone maintenance. But in the case of this Browning high power, and the fact that field stripping and assembling the pistol is a bit different, I included this maintenance segment. So, let's get to it. Safety check is always first. Remove the magazine, lock the slide back, and inspect everything to ensure that no live ammunition is in the pistol or in the general vicinity. Once satisfied that the pistol is safe, start the field strip procedure. Pull or push the slide to the rear and push the safety lever into the provided recess. Lift up slightly on the serrated portion of the slide stop to disengage it from the frame, and then pull it out of the frame. Grab the slide firmly, pull it rearward slightly, and move the safety lever down. The slide will move forward under spring tension and off of the frame. While holding the slide, press the head of the recoil spring guide forward to release the head of the recoil spring guide from the barrel. Remove the recoil spring and its guide. To remove the barrel from the slide, lift up the barrel lug and slide the barrel out to the rear. Disassembly to this point is sufficient for normal maintenance. No further disassembly is recommended, as the pistol is now stripped adequately for normal maintenance and cleaning. As far as cleaning and lubrication, I will simply say to follow the instruction contained in the manual for best practices. While the Browning high power is disassembled, let's take a look at the internals. To begin the assembly, first replace the barrel into the slide and lock it into place. Replace the recoil spring and guide into the slide. The head of the recoil spring guide is positioned rearward. Compress the recoil spring by pushing on the head of the guide until the head of the guide can be inserted into the concave recess of the barrel lug. The retainer tab on the recoil spring guide is offset. Ensure that it is aligned in the barrel lug correctly. Replace the slide on the frame and hold it fully rearward. Lock the slide rearward by moving the safety lever upward into the recess in the slide. Replace the slide stop into the frame. Pull the slide slightly rearward, move the safety lever down, and allow the slide to move forward slowly into battery. Now, let's talk about performing a function check. I normally use a few snap caps, when performing function checks, as not only do they protect the firing pin and firing pin stop, they also allow me to check for extraction and ejection. Cycle the slide to cock the hammer. Pull the trigger. The hammer should not fall. This checks the magazine disconnect safety. Insert a few snap caps into a magazine. Insert the magazine into the pistol and cycle the slide to chamber the first snap cap. The hammer remains cocked. Place the thumb safety in the up, safe position. Pull the trigger. The hammer should not fall. Place the thumb safety in the down, fire position. Pull the trigger. The hammer should fall. Cycle the slide completely. The first snap cap should be extracted and ejected. Cycle the slide until all snap caps have been extracted and ejected. The slide will lock back on the empty magazine. Inspect the breech face to ensure that the firing pin is not protruding. At this point, you can release the slide and slowly allow it to go into battery. Don't be guilty of gun abuse and let the slide slam forward on an empty chamber. Use the three-finger approach to decocking the firearm. Pinch the hammer with 2 fingers and the thumb. Hold the hammer while you pull and hold the trigger fully to the rear, and then control the hammer's descent until the hammer fully rests within the slide. Removing the magazine, I totally leave up to you. Well, that's it. Function testing is completed. So let's go to my final thoughts. The Browning High Power was designed in response to a French military requirement for a new service pistol. The French military required that 1. The gun must be compact. 2. The magazine must have a capacity of at least 10 rounds. 3. The gun must have a magazine disconnect device, an external hammer, and a positive safety. 4. The gun must be robust and simple to disassemble and reassemble. And 5. The gun must be capable of killing a man at 50 meters, or 55 yards. With all that in place, Browning High Power does have 2 design flaws. The first is that the pistol has a tendency to bite the web of the shooter's hand between the thumb and forefinger. And 2, another flaw is that the original small safety is very hard to release and re-engage. While pushing down with the thumb to get into the fire position is relatively easy to do, moving the safety into the safe position takes assistance from the support hand to accomplish. The positives are that the pistol is compact, easy to maneuver, low recoiling, easy to recover from muzzle flip, can be carried in 4 conditions, fits into most hands well. As the Browning High Power is a single-action pistol, it does take a concerted effort to safely decock the pistol. No decocking mechanism exists. That is not a negative. It is the nature of a pistol that was designed after the 1911 pistol by John Moses Browning, who simply followed through with an existing single-action pistol design. Some would say that the magazine disconnect safety is a negative. Depending on your perspective, I suppose that it could be. Research has shown, however, that a manual safety has been more effective on saving an officer's life if engaged during a gun grab, simply because the bad guy did not know how to operate the pistol when he took control of it. Magazine disconnect safety would then just become simply a backup safety. This Browning High Power is a very nice piece of work. While clones of the Browning High Power do exist, there is nothing like handling an original like this one. Regardless of any shortcomings with an original FN High Power, a new production FN, TSOS, or Springfield Armory version should bring you some sort of satisfaction knowing that you are holding a piece of John Moses Browning's legacy that continues on. Well, my friend, thus ends another chapter in the Range Ronin Chronicles. I hope that you enjoyed it and found it informational, if not interesting. Be sure to check back with the channel to see what other reviews are available, and for new reviews that I may come up with. Until we meet again, stay vigilant, stay armed, and stay safe out there.